Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 24 of What If Naruto Was Direct Descendant of the Sage. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Awaken the Yellow Rinnegan after his exile, and enjoy that guys over on Anime King 3. And over on Anime King 2, I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto Had the Rarest Bloodline, so go ahead and check out that and enjoy. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King 2, and Anime King 3, yes, I have 3 channels. Links will be down in the description for you guys to enjoy. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, Naruto was surprised by the first Hokage, entire demeanor. The man was completely not as he expected at all. The tale about him being a strong, powerful ninja was right, but that was not the thing Naruto was talking about at the moment. It was about the man's personality. It was soft, easygoing, and the man seemed rather just genuinely trustworthy. It was strange. As Tobi on the other hand was the perfect touch of a leader, as he had that serious quality about him. When it needed to get into action, he was ready at all times. As Naruto asked him about sage art, as Hoshirama told him that it was a cave where he learned it into, but it was destroyed in the battle a long time ago. But he told Naruto how to gather the energy. As Tobirama took a interest in Fu, she was stoic, just like him. He could tell that she grew and turned into a splendid kunoichi. So with that, the both of them started disintegrate as they made their way off after he asked him to say hi, Snazzy. As Naruto and the group continued, they went into some failed turns, like how they went into a place, the Hidden Star, where the place was destroyed and everyone was killed, as bodies litter all the place. As Naruto came to see one girl there, as he tried to save her, she told him, orange mask, black clothing, as Naruto didn't understand who she was talking about. They end up finding Snazzy, but it was the animals, the Senjutsu animals. The Senjutsu animals, after all, they didn't even have their contract. And Snazzy was, against of them signing the contract. And not to mention, if one of them signed it, only one of them could go. And Fu could be a possible candidate, but she would have to be with Snazzy to be her assistant, so she wouldn't let Naruto aside. So with that, they head off. As they went near the coast of Kumo, when they ran into Killer Bee, as Naruto thought that things were about to get, violent. But the man was rather calm, as he was leaving the place to get his rhyme refined, as he was going to find someone to help him refine his rhyme. So he ended up telling Naruto and the group where they could find a forest where they could gather Senjutsu. As the group went there, the place was hot, extremely hot, but it was true. As Teiwaya saw Naruto failing at it, so she decided to do it herself. She ended up gathering nature energy and she felt it, as her body felt so much plump with energy. But something happened. As her body started to turn to stone, she begged Naruto, she pleaded with him because she didn't want to die. As Naruto started siphoning off the energy, as he poured it out, as she was able to return back to normal, she panted as she couldn't believe it. She actually survived. She thought that she was going to die right there and then as she saw her body freeze over into stone. Haku made a rather rude comment, only for her to curse at him, as he was just making sure that she wasn't scarred by the encounter. But maybe next time she should listen rather than go at it by herself. So yeah guys, so basically that's what I thought you guys can switch across the place and check out for yourself. So what do you say we begin this new episode? It had been around a month since they came to the island, and everyone seemed to have settled in. It was currently nighttime, and Naruto was on top of the roof. The house looked like a Japanese style. The only thing that it didn't have was a sliding doors. As for Teiwaya, despite the way it seemed, she was a lot more shaken up than he thought by when she nearly turned into stone. She seemed fearful of ever trying it again. But after a couple of weeks passed, she started to consider it. Well, consider. She didn't actually try it, as Naruto wasn't having the best time with it either, as staying still was rather hard, that feeling to scratch her nose or even move or something. He sighed as he hopped off the roof and landed, as he sensed a familiar chakra. Fu and Toi were asleep, so it could only be one person. Can't sleep? Haku looked up from where he was just looking at the earth, his mind far away from what he was seeing. I was just thinking about things, he said. As Naruto smiled as he settled down beside his friend. Sharing them might help, said Naruto. Haku looked around at Naruto softly, before looking towards the ground. I was thinking about Zabuza-sama, as he paused. As he changed his way of talking. Zabuza-sensei, he said. It's been 3 months since his death. A quarter of a year. Naruto nodded. Anniversaries of a loved one's death was always hard. He was often filled with sad, very sad memories. When Shizuku and the Ichiraku family time came around. Yes, every time of that year. When it came around, it felt painful just to think about it, especially those times of the year. You should keep the memories of the people you care about with you, always, said Naruto. However, don't focus on his death. Think about the good that he did in his life. The better time that you had with him. The reason why you cherish his memory in the first place. Always focus on the bond. Never the moment you thought it broke, he said. As he slowly got to his feet. Now come on, I need to get your mind on something else, so you're not just dwelling in the past. Haku looked at his friend in confusion, as his voice sounded rather excited. I've been meaning to show you something. As he gave Haku a hand as Haku took it, as he pulled him to his feet. As Naruto placed his hand in the ram's seal. Watch this, he said. And Haku did, his eyes widening in shock and surprise at what he thought was impossible. What? But how? As Naruto simply grinned, letting out a bit of his childish side, as he appreciated the shocked, surprised look on his friend's face. Pretty cool, right? As Haku looked down the ice in Naruto's palm, ice that was not there a moment ago. Time skip, bright, orange eyes open up, brushing away green bangs from her eyes. A small cute yawn escaped Pooh's lips as she stretched. She was on a comfortable travel mat that was really not built for two people, but well, it never stopped her before. She rolled over slightly, expecting to see curious, ripple eyes awake looking at her. But Naruto was still fast asleep, his hair coming over his face a bit. Fu smiled warmly as she slipped out of bed, feeling a loss of warmth as she looked through the window that Naruto had added in the house that he lived in for the past couple of months. And it has becoming more and more like home each day. She was completely naked. That didn't really bother her though, as she started to gather up her clothes. Completely unaffected that Naruto might wake up and see her like this. As she gathered her clothes, she looked around. She saw him as she smiled. He was working so hard on understanding nature chakra. He kept on coming back late in the night and flopping down. Sometimes he wouldn't even come that far. He fell asleep outside, as she had to go out there and carry him back in. As she stood there, she realized it has been getting more and more difficult to hide her emotions recently. Well, she didn't see the reasons of hiding them anymore. She used to hide her emotions, to not give satisfaction to the people of Take, the people that held her down, and treated her, and used her as a weapon. She didn't want them to see her pain or suffering. She didn't want them to see her weak and helpless. But then she forgot how to do it. How to express her emotions. How to feel in certain ways. How certain things felt. How she just forgot. But when Naruto rescued her, it overwhelmed the dam. And it broke. As she was overwhelmed by the things that she felt when traveling with him and Shizuku. To try to stop that overwhelming, she placed up at that gate to stop it, to slow it down. But with every day he smiled at her, with every day they shared the same bed, with every day he looked at her with that warm, happy, cheerful smile. The gate started to just lower itself. She even found herself smiling for no reason at all sometimes, as she just felt a warmth rush through her body. She blinked as she was already at her destination, having lost in her thoughts. It was a small waterfall that she had found. There was a lump of smooth earth in the middle, almost like a little platform. She ignored that though as she slipped into the water, as the heat was released from her body, as she released a pent-up, grateful sigh. She wasn't sure what it was about the place, but it made her so calm, so wonderful. Perhaps it was because of the waterfall. Even if she tried to forget her time in Take, she'd been there for a very long time. And the waterfall They were familiar to her a lot. Maybe it was a nature chakra that permeated the era, if what Naruto had to say. It seemed like it was rather thicker here, as the place felt so refreshing and calm at the same time. She drifted closer towards the center of the pond, as she tried to remember the lessons that Naruto taught her about entering her inner space. She still wasn't used to it, and it always felt, well, dizzy when she came back out. But seeing that Naruto was able to enter his inner space so easily and talk to his tenants, as she calmed her breath, it didn't take her too long as she was lost in her mindscape. As Fu opened her eyes, she was falling. She was very, very, very high in the sky. As she looked down, she saw land below her. Far, far below her. This altitude would be rather dangerous outside in the real world, but in her mind it meant nothing. There wasn't even a sun in the sky, light was just shining from some source above them. Her wings spread from her back, confusing her. After all, they were just an extension of her Beichu cloak, but now they felt and looked so real. As she stood in mid-air, her wings flapping fast. As she saw a massive tornado, it was making not even a sound. As it came over, she knew that the tornado was supposed to be loud. As the massive seven-tailed beetle arrived, the reason why there was a tornado was its wings. It was flapping so fast, it generated a tornado that was completely see-through and soundless. Fu remembered the first time that she visited here. It was a week after she had settled alone on the island, and she felt so overwhelmed by the beetle. Fu-chan, you're back! But that overwhelming feeling quickly vanished once she realized how childish and dear she said friendly the Nanabi was. Hello, Komi. It still weirded her out to be on first name basis with a being that could literally swat her away like a fly. But the Nanabi simply pouted at her. And that was weird considering that it didn't have lips. It just had a strange helmet right there. That is where Fu looked at. Come on, Fu-chan. Call me, please, said the Nanabi. Fu eye twitched, but she remembered what Naruto said. It was good to have a positive relationship with your tenant. But still, calling... She released a breath. Hello, Lucky 7, she said, as the Nanabi buzzed around. See? Isn't that much better? As Fu decided not to say anything of that. Now, what can I do for you, Fu-chan? You need some love advice for Naruto-san? Fu was sure if the Nanabi had eyebrows, they would be wiggling in a Jiraiya manner. Not that she knew what Jiraiya looked like. No, it isn't that. Naruto told me I should talk to you more, that I should get to know you. She was glad her mind was able to come up with that because she almost blushed and she knew that she would tease her on that. Yes, she rather loved to tease her about Naruto-kun. She said, Naruto-kun. She shrugged it off for now. Well, I would expect that from someone that takes after our father. That Naruto, he really is a wonderful person, isn't he? Fu found herself smiling softly. Yes, he is, she said. She quickly caught herself, as she quickly reorganized her thoughts. Alright then, what do you want to learn this time? Fu had came in here a couple of times, each time, learning something new about her tenant. As the Nanabi was a peacemaker, she was always between her siblings, to stop them from fighting to cause massive destruction everywhere. She was a peacemaker in the family. Its whole personality had been created around that. It became rather carefree and happy. She always kept the peace, throwing herself into dangerous situations to keep her siblings from fighting no matter what. Fu had realized that Nanabi spoke like a, well, female when he heard her voice. Not to mention she acted like a female as well. There was just something about her. But when she asked, Nanabi told her that the Bijus didn't have a gender. That was the same thing Nikayubi told Naruto. But yet, they seem to have taken on characteristics of male and female. I want to ask about your form, said Fu. Komi looked at her body, like it was the first time that she was seeing it. It was things like this that made Fu look at Nanabi like she was endearing. My form? Fu nodded, knowing that if she didn't keep the conversation on track, Nanabi will find a way to bring up Naruto. She would always do something like that. So she was going to keep things straightforward, no delaying, no wasting time. Why do the Bijus look the way they do? Why are they so different? I can't say. The only person that would be able to say is our father. He was the one that made us this way, when he split our chakra from Majube, using the Benba Susu. Fu nodded, she figured that much. It seems weird that chakra will just take the form of a 3-tailed turtle, or a 5-tailed dolphin horse. Either the sage was a very strange man with vivid, imagination, or there was an underlying plan to their form. Perhaps he believed that these forms would best suit our personality when they are made. Or perhaps he thought that these forms would make us gain our personality. Honestly, I don't know, Fu. To be truthful, the thought had never crossed Nanabe's mind. It never crossed the mind of any of the Bijus, especially Kurama, seeing that he was quite proud of his form. Another thing, why the difference in your power? From what Naruto told me, the Kyuubi is far stronger than the other Bijus, more so than the number of tails indicate. It was true when he ran into Killer Bee again, Naruto felt the 8 tails power. To try to compare to Fu, and his power that he had within him. And the Fox power had a large gap. It was just something smothering over the others for some reason. The Nanabe sigh at that is easy to answer. The sage was a mortal like you. And even as wise as he was swayed by the views of the time. The world existed in a system of feud lords and peasantries, with everyone answering to a higher power than their own. And it gave way to a warring period after a sage death because they lacked anyone for the world to turn to that had true power over all. So the sage thought that if we were at equal power, we would only fight to see who is the strongest. That is what any human or any animals would tend to do. He didn't want this for his family. So he made sure we knew who were the strongest of us. A hierarchy to keep the peace. This was what balance of power mean back in that time. But of course, if he had known the arrogance that he would have given the Kyuubi, she corrected herself, then he might have reconsidered. But even the sage couldn't prepare for everything, I guess. Fu raised an eyebrow. Why are you so fearful of saying the Kyuubi's name, she asked. She was genuinely curious, as Naruto said that the Kyuubi has not told him his name. Ironically enough, it's because of the same reason. The gap of power between him and Jaiki is immense. None of us can ever hope to defeat him alone. By himself alone, the Kyuubi has half the strength of our progenitor. That is why we fear to anger him. If you think I'm safer than you, then you are wrong. We Bijus do not think of time the same way you humans do. We are timeless, immortal, and most importantly, we do not forget that easily. Fu nodded. She knew that she couldn't see things from that perspective. After all, she was just human. Thank you, she said. The Nanabe buzzed around quite happily, as it was enjoying these visits. From what Naruto told her about the Kyuubi, it could be a lot worse. As Fu entered her mindscape, Teiwai was lucky that Fu had control over her body perfectly. Otherwise, she might have lashed out and punched her right in the face, because she was rather close to her. She could now see the individual flickers of gold that permeated her brown irises. It was some kind of reaction to how close she had come to turn into a stone from nature chakra. Hey Minty, you were completely out of it. I thought that you knocked yourself out or something. Fu just grimaced. Your concern is appreciated. The redhead backed away, swimming back in the pool. It was then that Fu noticed that she was unclothed as well. Why are you here? Teiwai looked back. What the hell you mean? This ain't your private bath, your majesty, said Teiwai. No, I meant why are you here? Why, are you with Naruto? Fu was surprised and she turned away, as there was even a small blush on her nose. She sank a bit in the water, as her long hair spread out everywhere. Fu have to admit she was a bit jealous of her long flowing red hair. In her time of traveling with Naruto, hers had grown as well, but she didn't like how it looked long. Teiwai mumbled something about the water, muffled her way of speaking. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I like it, okay? She said she lifted her head out of the water more to speak clearly. I like traveling with you guys. It's fun, she said, as she sank into the water even more. As Naruto warned her that the near-death experience might change Teiwai, but this was more than she expected. Fun, said Fu. Yeah, I mean, I never had this before. Friends and all that. But it's kind of good. Fu looked at Teiwai in surprise. This couldn't be Teiwai. This couldn't be the foul mouth. Well, she still had that. But this blushing, shy girl. She then shot out of the water and glared towards Fu. You tell anyone that I said that, and I'll kill you. Got that bug, girl? She said, as she stormed off and grabbed her clothes as she went back to the house. She was still in there, but she was changing. Fu just relaxed back into the water. Time skip. As Fu was looking around for Naruto. As Teiwai, neither Haku had seen him. He was gone. He wasn't in the house. He wasn't on any of the spikes. By the end of the day, when the sun started to go down, Fu felt like she searched the entire island. She finally fell down in the mat in her room. As she stared at the ceiling, the same ceiling she has been staring at for the past 5 months now. She figured that he had to come back, to come sleep, so she would wait for him. But she did not realize how tired she was as she ended up falling asleep. But she was awoken by a noise. As she slowly opened her eyes, as she saw that the moon was full in the sky. It was nighttime now, fully night. The noise was coming from the ceiling. Figuring that some animal had managed to get on the roof again, she hopped onto the windowsill and hopped up to the roof, where she saw him. Naruto? He turned to see Fu on the roof as well, but he smiled. Hey Fu, he said. Fu got up and walked over, as she sat down beside him. I suppose you've been up here all day then. Fu wouldn't have been surprised, but it sounded like a situation that happened in a gag manga, where she was looking for him all over the place and he was on top of the roof. He rubbed back his head. Actually, I went to the mainland, he said, as he pulled out a normal-looking scroll out of his pouch. She never thought you'd be leaving the island at all during their training, especially since there's a chance that he might be recognized. You know, I keep messing up when I try to make the photons, so I thought I might go and buy some. I still have some money left over from our travel with Snazzy after all. Why? Said Fu. Why are you so selfless all the time? As she was looking at the forest, before he could say anything, she turned towards him, as he saw a tear running down her face. Don't you know that today is your birthday, she said. Naruto blinked once, then twice he looked down. They had partied with Snazzy sometime in February. Then, they went towards the wave for months. The incident in Konoha, the 2 months, searching for the islands, and then the 5 months here. It was October. I suppose it is. I hadn't even thought about it, he said. She wiped away a tear from her cheek as she thought about it, as it made her chuckle. I should have guessed that something like that didn't matter to you, she said. Naruto was, well, confused and surprised, as he heard the disappointed tone in her voice. Usually, she didn't show this much emotion. It's not that it doesn't matter, he said. When I was young, my birthday meant something else. It was the day that the 4th Hokage defeated the Kyuubi. Sometime the Hokage will come, and we would have ramen. Other than that, it didn't really mean anything else. Then at the temple, I just forgot about it. Birthdays really weren't celebrated. It was just another day, he said. Oh, she said. There it was again, that disappointed tone. He meant what he said. His birthday has really lost all meaning to him. Why? Said Naruto. She looked away, as Naruto remembered something. Oh, I'm sorry, Fu. Is this because I never asked when your birthday was, he said. He winced. He has been traveling with her for 3 years now. He would have definitely missed it twice already. She turned towards him, looking a bit shocked. That's your first thought? All this, and your first thought is about someone else than yourself, she said. Naruto blinked as he really didn't understand. His Fu looked down. Look, flashing across her features. It's moments like these make me wonder why I even deserve to be around someone as pure as you. As Naruto realized the tone in her voice, it was the same tone that Haku had when he was revived. That loss of hope. It is. Fu was cut off as Naruto pulled her into a tight, warm embrace. Don't say that, Fu. Never doubt why you're with me, please, he said. Her eyes widened because she heard the emotion in his voice. You're my friend, one of my oldest and most precious. I travel with you because I want to. See, I'm not as pure as you think. I'm selfish. For wanting friends. For wanting the companion and the warmth that it brings. If I was selfless like you thought, I would walk this path on my own. Bear the weights of this path on my shoulders alone. But I don't want to. She was still shocked into silence, unsure what to do, as she was still in his arms. He pulled back, a soft smile on his face, as she felt the intense heat on her cheeks as she looked away. Her heart was fluttering in ways that she didn't really understand much, but she had a suspicion about it. She read enough in books already. Just remember that for me, okay, Fu? She nodded. She will. He saw the look in her eye vanish. So, what brought all of this on, he asked. Yes, she said. She pulled out a scroll. Shizuku and I were planning this before the year that we were searching for Snazzy, your birthday. Shizune had lost track of Snazzy, and we went to go look for her. But we never managed to give it to you. That was the first chance we got to celebrate your birthday, but we could not. So, here, she said, as she pushed her chakra into it and poof. As Naruto saw Megatama beads, 6 of them. Are those... As Fu held the necklace in her hand. They are the beads you first performed the Bemba Susu with. When you asked me to get rid of them, I thought that it would be significant, so I kept them instead and made this. I've been waiting for an opportunity to give it to you, but before now nothing ever seemed appropriate. As Naruto accepted the necklace, he could have swore they hummed slightly at his touch. It was like they remembered their creator. Thank you, Fu, he said, as he placed it on his neck. But I don't have anything for you. That isn't the point, Naruto, she said. Today's your birthday. You're allowed to be a bit selfish, she said. Then, when is your birthday, he asked. I don't know. I was never told, she said. She felt him hold onto her hand. Then why not make it today? There he was again, always making her feel so warm and comfortable. And always thinking about someone else. But it was his birthday. Why go against his wishes? That sounds nice, she said. Things like that was irrelevant to her training as Jinjulke, so it was discarded and she never knew. But I still don't have anything for you. Then could I ask for something, she asked. He nodded. As she knew at that moment she could have asked for anything. Anything in the world, and he would have tried to get it for her. Hell, he could have asked the moon, and he would probably pull it from the sky like the wonderful, foolish person he was. Fu? Naruto seemed uncertain as she leaned forward, pressing their bodies together, as she placed a hand on his chest and one on his cheek. Their faces moved closer, finally coming together as their lips met each other. It lasted only a few seconds, but to Fu, it might have lasted a lifetime. As he broke apart. Thank you, she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. As the moment passed and she pulled back, she brought her hand up to her lips, like she could still feel the contact. She wasn't sure what was going through his mind, but since she met him, for once, she didn't care what he was thinking about, because she was genuinely happy. Time skip. As Naruto touched his lips once again. It happened yesterday, but it still felt like it was there. After the moment had ended, Fu, embarrassed inside, kicked in, and she had left the roof, blushing a bit. Needless to say, he got no sleep at all. He just kept on staring at the moon. He decided that he wasn't ready to face her yet, as he moved off to go and think some more. As Naruto found himself on top of the platform, he came up here to think some time, not to gather senjutsu, but his eyes were closed, his knuckles were turning upwards and touching together. As he started to think, the last person that got so close to him was Shizuku. Could he even survive if he lost Fu like that? As questions started to slam into him. Was this betraying Shizuku? He could still remember her kissing him on top of the Kumo temple. The warm nights that they spent in Mizunokuni was still fresh in his mind. That was a curse of his eyes. They didn't allow him to forget anything. He slumped forward in a position that he knew his senpai would have berated him for his posture. You're really pitiful. You know that, right? Naruto snapped open his eyes. A waterfall. Behind it, there was a silhouette. Who are you? He said. The person walked forward as he waved his hand as the waterfall moved out of the way. Can't you tell? Naruto was surprised as the person revealed himself, except it was him. A perfect replica of himself stood there, even wearing the recently acquired necklace. But his Rinnegan was red and glowed ominously. Or perhaps you're me. Or do you really not recognize yourself after so long of trying to keep me out? Naruto's eyes hardened. This was no illusion or transformation. The being in front of him was really himself, down to the chakra signature and his body. You're not a clone. As the being simply chuckled. Of course I'm not. Like I said, I'm you. I'm the real you. The one that exists deep within your heart that you're afraid to look at. The one that you always kept away. As Naruto stood up, some fog had rolled in at some point. An unnatural fog, and he couldn't see outside the clearing. Alright then, what do I want to myself, said Naruto. And why do you look so evil? The other him simply laughed at that. Still trying to hide your confusion behind stupid humor. Like I said once before, you're pathetic. Then what does that make you if you're me, said Naruto? Me? I'm your darker side. The part of your heart that is filled with hate. That is filled with pain. The part of your heart that has still not chosen this path of idiotic righteousness that you haven't set upon yet. We are both the same. I am nothing like you. I put aside my hatred a long time ago. The darker half, Yami Naruto, laughed. But it wasn't a kind of laugh. It was a laugh when a predator had their prey cornered. Exactly, you put aside that hatred and anger. And here I am, said Yami. I suppose this place must be special. Maybe the intensity of the nature chakra, huh? Hey, what do you expect? I'm everything you despise about yourself. Including the memories of Yagra that you have, that you locked away in your skull. Another reason why you're so pathetic. All of that power, the jutsu, the techniques, all of that at your disposal. And yet, what do? Nothing. Nothing. He killed Shizuku, said Naruto. If you are me, then you should know how painful that is. Yami grimaced. It seems like it was truly him. But even with all the hatred, he still felt the same thing down, but this one was consumed by his hatred. And yet you used the technique all the same. Was that not the same technique he used to find us? The sensors through the air, the water particles. We had to find Snaddy. I couldn't let another friend like her die again. I had to learn how to heal. Yami scoffed. You're pathetic. Making excuses for yourself. Really pathetic. But let's just not forget what happened when she died. Do you think that it was you running the show back then? You think that it was you that effortlessly beat down Akagi without flinching? No. That was all me. I'm the reason that we live this long. I'm the reason that we're strong. You were a mistake, a slip of control. I regret what I did, and every day since. Yami glared at him dangerously. Don't lie to yourself. I know you better than anyone. You loved it. The feeling of control. To have his soul within your palm. To rip it away. To make him suffer, to get revenge. You watch the light drain out of his eyes. You enjoy every single second of it. That wasn't me, it was you. Even you said it yourself. Yami simply laughed at that. When are you gonna get it, idiot? I'm you. The real you. Everything you want to do. That you hold yourself away from. I'm not afraid to do it. That's because you're scared. If you were like me, if you truly accept yourself, you would truly know how powerful you are. Not to hold back. Not to care. Just to give in to that. But no, you're scared. Because you know you're exactly like me. Because we're one. You're just too afraid to accept it. Imagine it, we could bring peace. Humans who never understand, they only know suffering and pain. The Bijus are right. They are just some greedy, idealistic bastard. But if you truly give in, if you truly accept yourself, what about our friends? Said Naruto, cutting him off. Friends? What friends? Said Yami. That foul-mouthed bitch that followed us, hoping to leash off some of our strength. The lost little kid that was always crying, and he's following us around like some puppy because he doesn't know any goddamn better. And her, she's spitting on Shizuku's memory by asking us to divide her heart between them. She really think that she cares about us because we're the only person that she knows. It's not love or even affection. It's desperation, said Yami. He quickly raised his hand and blocked. Naruto Almighty pushed with his own rather quickly. You're lying, Naruto said. We don't feel that way. As the two forces slam into each other, as they cancel one another out. Who the hell are you trying to convince, said Yami. If you're me, you must have felt it as well. Yami's smirk slipped away. What the hell are you talking about? If I felt it, then you did too. We can't deny it. Because we're the same after all, as you said. Back there on the roof, you must have felt it as well. Yami's face twisted into pure anger. It's nothing! We can't betray Shizuku like that. As Naruto blocked the punch at Yami, swung after him and jumped away from the kick as he pressed his arm against his chest and shoved him back. Fighting between us would be pointless. We're evenly matched in strength and speed. And we know all the same techniques. It will be a perfect stalemate, said Naruto. Yami straightened himself back up as he rubbed against his chest slowly as he looked at Naruto. And that is where you're wrong. Don't you get it yet? I'm your true self. The one that holds nothing back. The one that is not afraid to use his power. Almighty push, said Yami. As Naruto did the same thing, the two gravitational pulse slammed together in the middle. But Naruto crossed his arms and Yami came towards him with a brutal kick. He was knocked back as he could feel a jolt through his arm because of the kick. Even now as you stand there, you underestimate me, fighting with less than your full percentage because you're weak. You think we're evenly matched. You think that we're the same when it comes to power. As Yami slinked down into his stance, fire started to course through his body. You want to flex elements, said Naruto. as Naruto went into the stance of his Mizunamai, thinking that you will beat me because the name of your style is superior to fire. How pitiful, said Yami, as he attacked Naruto as Naruto went in for a defensive stand, as he blocked and redirected Yami's attack, as he slipped right under his feet, as Naruto absorbed the chakra out of his fists with the Prida path, so his harsh blows were turned into a minor scuffle as he twists and moved. Yami realized he was getting nowhere as he slipped into the same stance and tossed Naruto over his shoulder as Naruto was unprepared for it. But Naruto simply flipped as he landed on his feet. Don't you learn, said Yami as he attacked once again, but it was purely defensive, the both of them, redirecting each other's hands. Until Yami switches style as he break right through Naruto's guard and slam his two hands right into Naruto's chest. Naruto's body was picked off the ground as he smashed into a dense stone. He peeled himself out as he had to move as Yami crushed it with his foot. He spun as Yami kept on swinging and attacking him. Yami broke through his guard once more and tossed him right across the clearing as he smashed down on the ground. Naruto winks a bit as he wondered why. Wondering why Shikaku isn't coming to help you with his power. As Naruto frowned, that is exactly what he was thinking. If he was caught by a move like that, the sand would impact him and lessen the damage. You fool, we're both Naruto. Which one of us should he protect? As Naruto could only imagine the look on the Tanuki's face as he fretted over which father he should protect. Fine then, I'll beat you with my own power, said Naruto. As his body lowered, his fingertips started to crack with lightning as the both of them continued to fight. But Yami did the same thing as the both of them clashed. It was endless, they were getting nowhere, as Yami then jumped back. You would never do something like this. As his hand broke apart. It was like a machine as it twisted and turned into a cannon. Let's see you do the same, he said, as he fired a blast of dense, diluted chakra towards Naruto. Naruto only had time to bring his arm together as the attack smashed right in him, as his body was sent sailing through multiple trees. As he tried to absorb the blast, but it was just too much. He remembered how effortlessly he was able to absorb the Biju bomb from the sandby, but yet he couldn't even absorb this blast, as he smashed down hard. Yami smirked as he made his way over. Don't you see, said Yami as he made his way. If you don't fight with everything you have, there is no way that you can win. There is nothing that you can do. As Naruto did his best to show no pain, as the medical chakras already run through his system, their sure path, healing, and fixing the internal damage. Then what about you, said Naruto. As Naruto got to his feet, you could have drawn on the power of our tenants a long time ago. But you did not. Why are you prolonging this, Naruto asked. Don't you think I haven't tried, you fool? I want to end this as much as you do. You don't deserve to be sitting behind the wheel if you're as weak as you act. But this whole place seems to reject Biju Chakra. I can't summon it or else I would have dealt with you a long time ago. As Naruto wondered if this was because of the nature chakra. Could it be the opposite to the Biju Chakra? Well, the sage. He was a sage and he also wielded the Rinnegan, not to mention he was said to defeat the Jobi. So yeah, if you would guess, it was probably the counter. Slow as usual. You're just thinking about that, aren't you? Said Yami. As Naruto felt his injuries heal as he got back fully up. The Bijus aren't just some tool to use, they're living beings. Their powers aren't just something for us to use as we like. We haven't earned it, said Naruto. And with it, the sage was considered a god amongst mortals. Haven't you thought what we could do with that power, said Yami. What am I saying? Of course you haven't, or I wouldn't have. As he looked towards Naruto with a twisted grin on his face. But why don't you understand? Peace is an idealistic, stupid dream. If you don't have the power to bring this world to peace, you will never achieve it, no matter what you do. But you have that power. You can bring the dead back to life. You can be a god amongst humans, but yet, as Naruto looked at his doppelganger, did he really have thoughts like these that he buried away? That power is inhumane. We would be no better than Orochimaru. Of course we would be better than that selfish, arrogant snake that just wants to become immortal. Don't you understand that? We are better than him. We're better than all of them. And we can bring peace by then. The path to peace with force is a waste. The work of a tyrant is not a god. So bringing peace by force will never solve the problem, said Naruto. Still repeating what that fool Chikaku told you. What the hell does he know about true power? He's never experienced this kind of power. We can create a new moon. We can bring our army back from the dead. No one understands us. How could they when they can't do something like this? Yami fired off a beam as it destroyed a tree. Luckily enough, Naruto had moved out of the way. As Yami simply vanished out of view. As his voice echoed around, he was using invisibility jutsu. Naruto ducked as something ripped through the air. As he twists as something stabbed the ground. As Yami simply reappeared. As he now had a sword in his hand. As he tossed it at Naruto. As Naruto ducked underneath it as it pierced right through a tree. How were you able to find me? Have you already forgotten? I can sense every move you make, visible or not. Well, it doesn't matter. Yami launched himself forward surprisingly at immense speed, using all the speed that his body could muster as Naruto prepared himself for a punch, but Yami simply tapped him on the chest and jumped back. As he formed the ram hand sign, as Naruto's eyes widened, Sengatsu, said Yami, as coral erupted from the point of contact as it tried to fasten over his body. He tried to drain the chakra out of it, but Yami was also using Breathe Path to stop him as a tough coral started to climb around his body, freezing him around as the coral crept over his face as he was stuck inside of it. It was the same thing that Yagura had used. Yami had all the knowledge after all. Yami smirked. Don't worry. I'll take good care of your body. I'll use it and show the world what we can truly do. You will be staying here. You will be at the back seat for once. As Yami started to walk away, he then heard it. The coral started to crack. Almighty. Push! Yami raised his hand as he shielded his face from debris as the coral was blasted everywhere. Damn it! Why don't you just give up, said Yami. You're me. You should know why. Well, it doesn't matter. That attack must have taken a lot out of you. Look at you. You can barely stand. You don't look much better either, said Naruto. As Yami wasn't looking all that better either. I don't understand. Why are you fighting me? If you let me win, you don't have to care so much anymore. And I could do so much. The things that you were unable to do. Why can't you just see that? I can't see it. I see it just fine, said Naruto. But I don't fight for that. I don't fight for strength or power, said Naruto. I don't really even fight for peace, said Naruto. Both of them stood there as they were on their last legs. I do these things because if I can't find the peace in this world, then the people I love might get hurt once again. Then why not let me do it, said Yami. Why not let me get stronger in your stead? I can't afford to have darkness in my heart anymore. I have to learn how to forgive. I have to learn how to truly move on. It's what Shizuku would have wanted. At the mention of her name, it was like everything got calm. Pure silence around them. Yami snarled as he drew on energy he didn't seem to have as he rushed forward. As Naruto simply laughed. He didn't have the energy to even block. He was completely drained. Was he really gonna lose here? Was he really gonna lose? Some forest far away from his home. As he wondered if he was still calmly sleeping on the waterfall there. Tell you why I would come and push him in the water as a joke and it would irritate him. It sounded so nice. But he couldn't. It couldn't just end right here. As a fire lit under his eyes as he placed his arm in Ram's seal. Kazir, said Naruto. Yami didn't got any chance to do anything as black chains exploded from everywhere and wrapped around Yami. They were so black it looked like you were looking into a black empty void. They had spikes all over them, like they could literally tear through anything they came across. What? Said Yami. It would have been so easy to make his chains pierce through Yami. But at the last moment he saw fear in his eyes, so he allowed them to wrap around him. What is this? He couldn't even muster up an almighty push. Well, not that it would have helped anyway. He finally lowered his gaze. So, this is it then, he said. As he looked back directly into Naruto's eyes, red Rinnegan, meeting purple. I lose. Naruto simply nodded. He didn't know what this power was. A word just came into his mind, and he used it. But it stopped him. But he really didn't know what these black chains were. So what now? Said Yami. You vanished, said Naruto. Yami knew when he was serious after all, as he lowered his head accepting his fate. So it would seem, he said, as his voice sounded like he accepted everything already. as the chains start to sink back down into the ground. As Yami falls down to the ground on his knees. "I'm sorry," said Naruto. Yami simply laughed. "I already know that, you damn fool," he said, as he break away and vanish from within Naruto. As Naruto started to sweep, the outer path had drawn on the energy that he didn't have, and now his body was paying for it as he blacked out completely. Naruto jumped up as he looked around, ripple eyes meeting orange eyes as Fu had her close in front of her to cover her naked form. "Naruto, are you alright? You seemed troubled just now." As Naruto blinked, wondering if all that was a dream. But he knew that it was too vivid to be a dream. "Yeah," he said. As he got to his feet, Fu looked at him confused. "I actually feel a lot better all of a sudden," he said. "Like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders." Memories of what Yami said to him went through his mind as he stepped towards Fu. She blushed a bit, for the first time seeing that she was naked around him. This never used to bother her at first, but now. "Thank you, Fu," he said. He leaned forward and planted a kiss on her lips before walking off to leave her to her bath in peace. This time, he won't make the same mistake. He will treasure what he has. But guys, be in subscribe right here. For once next part, be not do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share all of your friends via social media platform. And also, go ahead and check out Anime King 2, where I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto Had the Rarest Bloodline. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy. And over Anime King 3, I post a brand new episode of What If Naruto Awakened the Yellow Rinnegan after his exile. So go ahead and enjoy it as well. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King 2, and Anime King 3, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for helping and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. Peace, guys.